everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I'm Joe, and Di's behind the camera. I'd like to say thank you first of all to people that have subscribed recently. We've had quite a few people subscribing to our channel. If you haven't subscribed, our sort of aim is to give advice and tips about sort of how we grow as much of our own food as we can on our 2 allotments in our kitchen garden. So please consider subscribing. There's a subscribe button at the bottom of the page there. What we're going to talk about today is compost. Compost making, basically. Compost, I'd probably call it a gardener's best friend. It's very good for the soil, it's full of nutrients, it's environmentally very good because you're using basically kitchen scraps, gardening stuff, sort of fallen apples, dried leaves, woody bits of wood, and you're turning it into a soil. So it sort of helps you not to buy fertilizers. It gives you some potting mixture to pot up your own plants, so it's very, very good. So we've got 3 compost bins in the garden here. This one I've just emptied out today, completely emptied it out, and as you can see, that's what we end up with. Lovely crumbly soil. It's still got some seeds in there. I can sort of see seeds in there. I can see some various bits of eggshells and other bits and pieces, but that is just full of nutrients. It's good for drainage as well if you use it. So that's emptied out now completely, and what I've done is I'm going to fork the bottom to make sure I can start using it again. So give it a good fork at the bottom to let the air, let the worms sort of circulate. It's good for the air circulation. So that one's sort of just been emptied. This one's in the process of being finished. You can see the worms are still in there, they're active, but that's not as crumbly, it's still quite clumpy. There's still quite a lot of organic matter in there, so it's breaking down gradually. That'll take a bit longer to break down. Oh look, there's is that stone? So that'll break down for a while. And this one's on the go at the moment. You can see lots of worms in there. So it's just you can see them wiggling around all over the place in there. So yeah, that one's in the process of cooking at the moment. Takes quite a lot. Takes quite a lot actually. It's surprising how quickly they go down if you leave them for a while. So yeah, that's the process. We've got 3 here. We've got a couple of wooden ones down the allotments as well, and we've got some more plastic ones down the allotment. They come in all sort of shapes and sizes. They come in plastic. You can get ones that are insulated. You can get sort of small ones if you've only got a small amount of kitchen waste, which have got worms in them. It's like a wormery sort of system where the casts fall through the bottom. You can get wooden ones as well, which you can purchase. You've got ones that are tumbling ones where you can sort of turn them yourself occasionally. So they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Mainly the ones down the allotment, most people have sort of constructed their own ones with using 3 pallets, sort of a back and 2 sides, just open access to the soil really, and just cover it over when it's not in use. Yeah, so there's lots of different shapes and sizes. I know a lot of councils, especially in the UK, are now sort of subsidising compost bins because it's environmentally friendly and it helps sort of keep landfill sites sort of a better level. So I mean, look at your own area and see what's available in your local area. So compost making is a bit like cake making really. It's full of ingredients. I mean, the main ingredients are your green material, which provides your nitrogen. So it's anything from the garden sort of weeds, not too many weeds with seeds in though, garden material. Then we've got a whole bucket full of kitchen waste here, fallen apples. So yeah, I mean that's your green. We keep a little caddy in the kitchen with a top on it, and we just put all our garden scraps, peelings in there. We line it with newspaper as well, so that adds a little bit of carbon into the compost mix every time we use it. So I pick up newspapers from railway stations, the free ones, the metros. So I use those for lining. So that's a good way of adding sort of a bit of carbon to your compost. So the other ingredients, so you've got your nitrogen. Your other main ingredient is carbon, which is sort of dried leaves. Dried leaves are good, especially vine leaves. They break down in no time. They crumble up into nothing. You've got wood chippings, sawdust you can use. So yeah, shredded newspapers are good. Cardboard. With your vegetable waste, what I would say, don't use glossy magazines, I would say, because they're full of inks and sort of chemicals, so I wouldn't use any glossy magazines. But with your vegetable peelings, I wouldn't add any food scraps in there, no meat, no fish, or no sort of dairy products, because that can attract rodents to your compost bin as well, which is not a good thing to do. So yeah, but any kitchen scraps, old apples that have gone mouldy, or banana skins, anything really, peelings, anything you've got really can go in there. Hair hair can go, anything that was organic will break down eventually. Yeah, so there's three sort of basic ways of making your compost. There's what's called the warm or hot method, I should say. The hot method is where you use 2 parts of carbon for every 1 part of nitrogen. So every 1 part of, say, every bucket of kitchen material, you'd add a bucket or 2 buckets of sawdust, wood chippings, dried leaves. So it's predominantly more sort of carbon than nitrogen in it, and that just heats up very quickly, produces compost very, very quickly for you. Then you've got the sort of cold method, which we use down the allotment. It's basically just chuck everything in and let it take the natural process. It might take a year, 18 months to break down. It will break down eventually, because everything breaks down eventually, but it's not so quick. And then you've got something in between, which is probably what we use, warm sort of method, where we do use kitchen scraps and garden waste, but we add some carbon to it as well. But we don't sort of keep an eye on the quantities or whatever. We don't do a 2-to-1 ratio, we just do it as we go along basically. So they're the sort of different methods of using. I mean, the main thing that helps you break down your compost are these worms. I think they're called branding worms, red worms, tiger worms, got all sorts of names to them really. But basically what they are is earthworms that enjoy living in rotting vegetation really. They help break it down, and they also produce cast, which are good for the soil as well, because they contain sort of friendly bacteria which is good for the plants. So yeah, I mean they just appear. I mean, they come up through the soil and make their home in a compost bin, because it's got lots of vegetation in there for them to feed on, and it's nice and warm in there, so they will find a home in your bin. But you can actually buy them on the internet if you sort of want to buy a starter pack, so to speak. What I'll do is I'll normally transfer them from one bin to another as we go along. So as I start this bin, gradually as this rots down, they'll all come into the lid, and I'll put them into the next bin. So there's always a sort of circulation of the worms from one bin to another really. But yeah, they're brilliant, because they munch their way through the material and break it down, and they also produce cast, which are beneficial as well for your plants. So they're great. So what we do is we start this one off today. So what I always do to start off with is put sort of woody material at the bottom of the compost bin, which helps sort of air circulation. So if I put those in first, sort of woody, dry material, but I've cut it up as well into sort of smaller bits. So they go at the bottom. Spread those out. Oh, I think I'll put the top back on as well now. So spread those out in there, break them up a bit. So that gives it sort of a bit of a base, and lets the air circulate, and lets the worms sort of come up through the soil as well. So that's a matter of putting in green material. these are fallen apples, rotten apples off the tree. Put those in. Ew, look at that one, toffee apple. Put a couple of buckets of those in. Those are spread about as well. And then it's a matter of adding some carbon, so I'll put some dried leaves on top of that. And these leaves are quite dry, so I might just give it a little sprinkle of water, even though a lot of moisture will come out those apples as well. Put the kitchen scraps in. As you can see, there's bits of newspaper in there from the sort of caddy as well. That's actually really moist. It's been sitting in that bucket for a few days and it's really gone wet. Put some cardboard and newspaper in there. Spread those out next. So it's just a matter of layers basically, so it's a bit like making a cake really. Just keep adding different layers. So yeah. Then I'll put some garden waste in there. Spread those out. We'll add some wood chippings to that as well. Maybe a little bit more moisture in there. Make the chippings a little bit wet. The good thing with these plastic ones though, they do retain the moisture. Unlike the ones that have opened at the allotments, they dry out in no time. Where we've had no rain for ages, they've dried out completely and I have to keep watering them. But these ones, because they've got a lid on them, I mean they retain the moisture inside. So now it's just a matter of just keep adding stuff to it as we go along really. Yeah, it soon rots down. It takes, I don't know, how long will it take to fill up one of these? I'd say probably a good 6 months I think. Probably takes about 6 months to fill it. And then another 6 to 8 months after that it just sort of start rotting down before it's ready for use. So this one we'll probably keep adding to this one for another couple of months maybe, and hopefully within 3 or 4 months that one will be ready to use, which will empty out, and then this one will be filled up for ages now. So just matter of putting the top back on and just keep adding to it as we go along now. And with the stuff that we've already got, we can use that for potting stuff up. I think I want to take it down the allotment actually, because we're going to pot up a lot of strawberry runners. This would be ideal, potting up the strawberry runners with it. So yeah, excellent. This is our compost bin on plot 59. I suppose you'd call it a cold compost bin because we just chuck everything in there that comes off the plot, and I do add a lot of bark to it to add some carbon, but I've been watering it like mad last week, trying to get the moisture levels up a bit. It's been so dry, I don't think we've had much rain for a couple of months, and it just dries out completely all the time. So I'm keeping the water, keep adding water to it to try and get the levels of moisture up so they start rotting down a bit. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informative. It's an easy method of turning what is waste into a nice soil that you can use. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you have, and if you've got any sort of comments, if you've got any other sort of ideas of how to sort of improve the process or what method you use, please let us know in the comments box. And if you'd like to follow our journey through the allotment year, please use the subscribe. I think there's a picture at the bottom of me in a pot, in a circle. So that's the subscribe button. You can press that and subscribe to our channel and follow our journey through the year. Thanks very much for watching.